All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It is December 8th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Mayor and Council of Princeton, New Jersey. Madam Clerk, could we have the meeting statement, please?
Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act and state regulations governing public meetings, including the time, date, and location of the meeting, and clear and concise instructions to the public for accessing the meeting and making comments. In addition, the agenda and all related materials were posted electronically and made available to the public on Princeton's meeting portal in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. David's going to do the land acknowledgement tonight.
We gather today on the land of the Lenape. As members of the Princeton community, we aspire to show appreciation, respect, and concern for all peoples and our environment. We honor the Lenape and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters, the elders who lived here before, the indigenous today, and the generations to come.
Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. McDonald?
Here.
Ms. Perron-Lambros is absent. Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Sachs?
Here.
Ms. Fraga?
Here.
Mr. Newland?
Here.
Mayor Frida?
Here. All right, if you're able and want to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, first up are approvals of two sets of minutes, August 5th closed session and August 11th regular meeting. Thank you, Brian. Someone want to second those? Leticia? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, council announcements or reports. Any council members with any announcements or reports tonight? I would just say one thing, our projector is broken. So when public are making comments, we usually have a 3-minute limit. So you won't be able to see the timer tonight. So I will, without interrupting, but kind of saying where people are so people know where they are in that.
Mayor, I just have two quick announcements. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
From the Arts Council of Princeton, just to remind people about the Artist Village, Winter Village on Hines Plaza through December 21st, Hines Village on Artist Village on Hines Plaza, and also the Olivia and Leslie Foundation student exhibit on Saturday, December 13th at the Arts Council of Princeton. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council announcements or reports? Anything at the table? No? Okay. We have a public hearing on Ordinance 2520, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton regulating short-term rentals, imposing an occupancy tax on transient accommodations, and amending chapters 15A and 16 of the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, David. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. All right, we'll start up here and then we'll get to public comment. Any comments, questions, whatever by anybody up here? You want to go?
Sure. I will just remark that the working group that put this together, which included staff and myself, the mayor, and Leighton, spent a lot of time and looked at a lot of different options for how to implement some controls on the ADU or on the STRs in town, sort of balancing the need to preserve traditional rental housing for long-term residents, as well as the convenience and need for alternative kinds of short-term rentals that aren't provided by our hotels. And I feel good about where we landed, and I think my colleagues on the task force feel good about it too. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay. Any, Leticia?
Yes, I want to thank the working group staff and the committee that worked on this, from the working sessions to everything that's been provided has been very comprehensive and educational. I learned a lot from it, and I agree that it's on where where we landed, was proposed and introduced, and thank you all who worked on it.
Okay. And, Leighton?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just want to read a quick statement. Before we get into the language of this ordinance, I want to start where all good work starts, with the people who rolled up their sleeves and got it done. My deep thanks to Deputy Administrator and Health Officer Jeff Grosser. Our deep thanks, myself, Mark, David, and the rest of council. To Officer Jeff Grosser, the steering team, the committee members, and everyone who showed up with data, honesty, and a willingness to wrestle with the hard questions. This wasn't just drafting policy. This was problem solving in real time as a team. What you see tonight is more than regulation. It's a reflection of who we are as a community. Princeton is and has always been a beautiful place to visit. Folks come here from everywhere, drawn to the energy, the history, the culture, the feeling. But our responsibility on this day is bigger than being a postcard destination. Our job is to make sure Princeton remains a place where people can actually live, raise families, build roots, and feel like they belong on their own block. This ordinance says loud and clear, we value community, we value neighbors, we value stability, we value the kind of Princeton where year-round residents aren't pushed out by speculation, and where the quality of life that built this town is protected for the long haul. And let me be real for a moment. Having the right idea is easy. Anybody can talk vision. But working together to turn that vision into a real, balanced, equitable solution, that's where leadership shows up. That's where character shows up. And that's exactly what this team delivered. And at the end of the day, and yes, I said it, Princeton works when Princeton works together. And this right here is proof. So, I'm going to go down the list to thank individually and collectively Justin Lesko, Elisa DeSantis, Bernie Osdovic, Derek Bridger, Taylor Gribben, Robert English, Samantha Beer, Councilman David Cohen, Councilman Leighton Newland, Mayor Mark Frieda, Lisa M. Maddox, Kate Wilhelmi, Gwen Kroll, and last, but certainly not least, Jeff Grosser. Thank you all.
Thanks, Leighton. Any other comments up here? All right, anybody in the room here to discuss? Yeah, just come on up to the microphone. Just give your name and address. And Chip, I'm sorry, somebody in the back was up first.
The last anyway.
Come on up. What I'll do is, when we hit 2 minutes, I'll just go 2. When we're down to 1 minute, so.
I'll read off my phone so I don't stumble over my words.
Yeah, just try to make sure for people on Zoom, unless you're speaking into the microphone, they
Is this-
won't, just as long as you speak loud enough for the microphone to pick you up.
Okay. Is this a good distance?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is James Mogliever, and I'm here with my fiancée, Nicole. We're all short-term rental operators here in Princeton. Before I begin, I want to say thank you for the time and thought you've all put into this ordinance and for taking our situations into account. I know the reputation that Airbnbs and their operators can have, and that would have been easy to dismiss us. So we truly appreciate the flexibility a 3-year phase-out period gives us as we each figure out our next steps. I'll try to keep this brief since most of what I can add has already been shared in our letters and in Mayor Frieda's conversation with my mom, who is not here right now. During the October 27th meeting, Councilwoman Lambros raised a point that I don't think received the attention it deserved. She stated that making a decision without considering all scenarios could lead to unintended consequences, and suggested a 2-step process in which regulations are set up first and the phase-out period is finalized later. While I recognize there has been a lot of research, conversations, and consideration over the years, and especially during these last few months, there has been no actual data from Princeton-specific regulation or tax collection to base a final decision on. I'd like to respectfully request that the Council include a sunset or review clause within the ordinance that builds in the flexibility to revisit the non-primary residence discussion at a later date. Specifically, I suggest that the final decision be made 2 years into the 3-year phase-out period. This would give the council 2 years of real Princeton data to work with, instead of relying only on anecdotal evidence and examples from other municipalities with different demographics and needs, and would allow for a more informed decision. If, after 2 years, the general consensus stays the same, it would be a straightforward vote to keep the ordinance as written, and STR operators would still have 1 year to transition out of the business and into new careers. If the data suggests that tweaks can be made, then the flexibility created by this clause will have done exactly what it was meant to do. I understand that after years of discussion, some of you feel a real sense of urgency to reach a decision and finally move forward on this issue. At the same time, because the topic has been on the agenda for so long, the exact timing of this ordinance and the length of the phase-out period may feel less significant to the council than it does to those of us whose livelihoods depend on this business. For many of us, this decision will shape our futures, which is why having the ability to revisit it with real data feels so important. Thank you again for the consideration you've already given us over these past few months, and I hope this request receives the same level of thought. I'm happy to answer any questions and otherwise appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks. Boy, that was really good. You did it
Thank
in
you.
in 2.5
Any
minutes.
questions, right? You guys seem to know what's going on? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is there, Chip, did you want to comment on this also? Again, if you just state your name and address, and I'll try to, without interrupting you, let you know where you are on the timer.
Chip Kreider, been on Bank Street is longer than anyone. Well, this is certainly better than what we had, which was nothing. And I've been asking for a couple of years, when are you going to do something? Okay, it's a good first pass, but I have a few concerns. I think enforcement is going to be a problem. So how do you prove that someone's doing a short-term rental? None of the advertisements I've seen online give the address. I doubt if Airbnb or Vrbo would respond to a subpoena for a non-criminal thing. So how do you prove that it is a short-term rental? You're not going to get people's leases or the paperwork for the rental, nothing. So, you know, if somebody gets charged with violation, you go to court and their lawyer says, well, how do you prove it? And you're out there in the breeze. The other concern is, so there's an Airbnb on our street. They took 2 de facto low-income apartments in a run-down building, put money into the place, fixed it up, and I've watched the occupancy, and I've seen they're probably making a few $100,000 a year from that, and those low-income apartments are gone. The visitors come, sometimes they pay attention to the parking rules, otherwise they say, well, geez, if I'm paying $400 or $350 a night, I'll just park and take the ticket, it's cheaper. So there's a problem, it destroys neighborhoods. The other concern is you're worried about housing for the lower income people. I came to Princeton in '73, my first girlfriend in '74 came to Princeton on a bus because she dreamed of the culture and the interactions in town. She had 20 bucks to her name. She got a room at Agnes Frohling's rooming house right across from Old Borough Hall. It's gone. That's really the bottom of the line. And I fear that all the regulations and the fees and stuff, you're going to charge a fee of $200 for a rental that might, a room rental that might bring in $75 a week. An older couple, that one spouse dies, right? The other spouse has to rent a room out or 2 out to pay the taxes. Suddenly, you know, that's out of line. And then your fine is only $1,250. That house will be on the market, and then it'll be upped up like everything else. So pay attention to the bottom. Otherwise, I think you should go on this. And I think it's very generous that you give existing things 3 years. And lastly, I think you need to tweak up the definitions in the zoning ordinance to make sure it's pretty clear what a short-term rental is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room that wants to speak on this? Okay. I see that a hand up on Zoom. Adam's the technology guy in the back. Let's bring Tina in. Hi, Tina? Hi, Tina? Tina, it looks like you're muted if you're trying to talk.
There we go. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Tina, if you can just introduce yourself and your address. And are you able to see me? Can you see me give you a hand signal as far as the time?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tina Clement at 13 Vandeventa Avenue. I have a question. I think what you're doing is fabulous in looking at, the short-term rentals. I have a question about rooming houses. What happens if somebody is given the okay to rent their house, their duplex, whatever, with X amount of people because of the square footage? What does that stop them from running it to, say, if the square footage says you can rent it to 10 people, they rent out all the rooms to 10 people. If it's a family, that's one thing. But if they're all individuals, do they sign the master lease? Are they individual leases? How is that controlled? And what happens with that? And what that changes the neighborhood, because you can have short-term rentals come in and out of a property, a month, 2 months. And if there's a master deed, they're covered. And I don't think a landowner can just have individual leases. So I don't know whether I'm making sense, but can a master lease with renters sublease the master lease and not be affected by the master lease? Is that legal? And do they have to live there?
Right.
So if I wanted to rent out 5 rooms in my house and
All right,
did
Tina,
it all
I just want to look at our attorney and staff and make sure that we understand the question. Do you guys?
sorry, wasn't that clear maybe?
No, that's okay. I think it was. I guess you reference a rooming house, and I'm assuming a rooming house is similar to a hotel, more than a dwelling, a single
Well,
dwelling.
no, you're wrong. A rooming house is, if I took my house and rented out 4 rooms in my house to individual people, is that not a rooming house?
It is.
And,
I
and so-
think that rooming houses are allowed very sparingly in the former borough. They're not permitted in most zones throughout the town. I think the maximum is up to 10 people, but I think it's for longer term rentals. They're not, if it's, for 30 days or that would not meet the definition, I think, in our ordinance of a rooming house. It has to be for long-term rentals.
And it also doesn't meet the definition. A rooming house is actually exempt from the definition of short-term rentals. So,
well, then how do you control people that are renting out rooms in their house?
It's zoning.
Let's, okay, right. So if your question is dealing with rooming houses, which is not part of this ordinance, then that's a different
Well-
question, which if you want to tell us how to contact you, we will have the appropriate person talk to you about rooming houses. But the public hearing tonight is specifically on this ordinance, so we're not going to go into.
Except short-term rentals come under. I know people that are doing short-term rentals in their house as short-term rentals. It's not listed as a rooming house.
Okay.
But in actuality,
It is.
it is a rooming house because they have different terms within their property of how people are living there. And the housing department, I think I understand this, according to the square footage of a house, you can say, well, you can have 5 people, rent to 5 people, you can have 10 people, or whatever. What controls are there to stop me from renting? I have a 3-bedroom duplex. I can rent the 3 bedrooms and my attic and my living room. what controls are there in place to not say that's not a rooming house?
I think
And
I'm having a
all
hard
these
time
people come
understanding.
in and out at various different times. Do they all go under a master lease? Is that how you get around it? And then they can sublet on the master lease? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Not entirely. I mean, I think if those rooms were being advertised or marketed, we would be able to, and this goes back to Mr. Kreider, your question about how they're being monitored. We will have a surveillance platform that will assist with monitoring. So if these units that you're talking about are being advertised, we would be able to pick those up. And if they were part of a rooming house that was not necessarily in line with this ordinance, we would be able to either correct that with the owner or, enforce it accordingly.
Okay, and then
Shouldn't they have to register?
do they have to register? And then my other question is, how do you know that a homeowner is living in the property that they are renting the room? How would you know that I was living in my house?
The ordinance stipulates it needs to be on your driver's license or voter registration card.
I see. Okay, so I would have to be able to prove my driver's license or my voter registration that I live there.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, I think there's still, I'm sorry, I think the work has been incredible, but I think there still are a lot of hidden,
There's nobody checking it.
I don't know, branches under the ordinance that need to be flushed out. Because I do know people that do rent rooms and may not live in that property. And that changes the complex of a neighborhood.
Okay.
And also, does zoning have any impact on if you're a short-term rental? Is that commercial? Does your property now become commercial or not?
No, it does not turn a residence into a commercial property.
Okay, what would turn it into a commercial property?
You'd have to change the use from a residence to a commercial use. Tina, I really want to stay focused on the ordinance that we're talking about.
So
and
my
not-
ordinance really is focused on how do you deal with short-term rentals that rent out multiple rooms in their house?
Okay. Tina, it sounds like you have specific questions about specific properties or specific owners, and you're more than welcome to take that up with our staff at any point in time, and we can address those issues.
Okay, but I think I will do that, and I think it's important that it's part of the ordinance.
It is part of the ordinance. The ordinance limits the number of rooms that can be rented in a house. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's either 2 or 4.
Okay. Okay, well, I love the work that you're doing. I know it's a mega issue, so I'm on your side. These points have come to my attention, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And that's what I want to do.
Okay. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, was there anybody else on Zoom that wanted to speak to this? All right, no other hands up. Was there anybody else in the room that wanted to speak to this? Just come on up to the microphone. Just introduce yourself, give us your address. As I said before you came in the room, our timer's not working. There's a 3-minute limit, so if you try to watch me every now and then, I'll hold up when it's 2 minutes, when it's 1 minute, just so you have an idea.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalia Mogiliver.
Why don't you just pull that microphone down, help her with that microphone.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
My name is Natalia Mogiliver, and I'm resident in Princeton. And I'm honored to be here, like in front of you, and tell you, my vision, about this business and about this future, of this business. Because for me, it's not just business. For me, it's my passion would become my profession for the last 10 years. I call myself a pioneer of this business, I was one of the first ones who opened this one. And I love it so much that for me, like it became joy and happiness of my everyday life. Okay, and I'm here as immigrant woman. I am here as a mother, as a daughter. I'm here, it's my kids right here, James and Nicole. And I really appreciate, like you for consideration. And, like I hope you will make a right decision if you already made. Okay, because for us, like I think, like we made something magical, like in this town. And right now it's a Christmas time, it's the most magical time of the year. And I hope something magical, like will happen today. Because, like what we did, like I'm talking of course about, like our places. We have about, I think, 16 places altogether. 14, okay, 14 places, like I just double check. Okay, and we are very responsible host. We do everything possible, like for people to come back, like to us many, many times and feel very, very happy and, like, and love what we do. We have international guests, like from all over the world. And we have like 3,000, like plus positive reviews. Okay, and I think it's cost something. Okay, it means, like we do for our Princeton community something very special. Okay, like, and it's not it's not an easy business. It's 24/7, like customer service. And we do, like we don't use AI like hotels, like do. We use personal touch. And I think, like in this business, it's very rare, especially in 21st century. Okay, because if you read, like the news, like hotels will use more and more, like AI, it will be less personal touch. But before people come to us, they ask us 100 questions, and we are 24/7 available. In China right now, it's plus 13 hours. What time is it now? 7:30. In China right now, it's 9:30 a.m. And people call us from anywhere, texted us, and we are here for them.
I need you to finish up.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
And
like
your letter
guys,
was-
thank you so much for everything. Like happy holidays, and ask me any questions. Like I will be happy to answer.
Yeah, and your letter was shared with everybody.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mark. Like I really appreciate to meet with you another day. It was a beautiful conversation, and I'm very thankful for everybody. Thank you so much, and I
Thank
wish
you.
you make a right decision. Thank you. Bye-bye. I mean, I'm here.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the request to sort of delay the decision or to put a sunset provision in, and just reassure you that, I mean, I appreciate the point that decision-making using real data that we have collected once we're operating the registration system is a good idea. We will follow the data that we gather. We can amend the ordinance at any time. So, but I'm reluctant to put in a sunset provision because that puts the burden on us to renew it. Whereas if we say, show us that things are working out well, and we don't need to get rid of the non-owner occupied units, you can bring it back to council and we can reconsider it, but it sort of relieves us of the burden of having to renew the ordinance. So that's my preference, just to reassure you it can be changed, but I don't want to put in a sunset.
Okay. Yeah, Leighton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your passionate commentary and tell you that I think all of us hear you, and we appreciate what you offer Princeton in a variety of ways that is unofferable in other ways. But my message to you, as Bernie Miller once said, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. There are some things here that may not be as good as we would like them, but at the end of the day, this is not, and I want to repeat, this is not an attack on great and good operators. This is a support of quality of life. so that people can live here, raise families here. Every Airbnb here in Princeton is an opportunity for someone to come here for a minute or two and leave, but not for someone to live, raise a family, age in place, send their kids to school. That's the problem. We do appreciate everything you're doing, but we hope you understand that our job is to protect all the people. And the people that live here are much more important, quite frankly, than the people that visit. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the room that are on, anybody else in the room or on Zoom that hasn't spoken that wants to speak? Okay. Any other comments from up here? Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to say this is a really complicated issue, and I appreciate the work that our committee has done. And I hope that where we're going to land is the right place for the community, balancing the different interests and concerns and needs. But if it's not, I hope that, as with any policy we implement, there can be unintended consequences. It can perhaps not play out the way we had hoped. And so I hope that we'll all be willing to, as with the ADU ordinance, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, will continue to monitor and see if it is complying with both the letter and the spirit of the law, and you know, if there are changes that need to be made with this, we will make it. And I just want to say we're an international town. I know there's some resistance in Princeton to referring to us as a city or anything that has urban connotations, but there are people who have the need to travel here from all over the world. We're a university town, and we do have a need. There are many people who live here and cannot accommodate the people who want to visit them, their relatives, and all sorts of businesses and academic and other pursuits in Princeton. And there's no ability for the people to, for guests, relatives, colleagues to find a place to stay in Princeton. And Princeton is losing a tremendous amount of money to other towns around us, because that is the only place that anyone who wants to visit or interact with people in Princeton in a professional way that's the only place they can afford to stay. Unfortunately, the Airbnbs in Princeton have not proved to be a solution either, because they are so insanely expensive that you know, only very wealthy people could afford even one night of an Airbnb in Princeton. So I think, you know, I feel some degree of trepidation about imposing regulations when we don't have more data than we do, but I am comfortable with it because we all agree it is good for Princeton to have people who are live in the community and are invested in our community long term, A, and B, a priority for us is for people who live here to be able to remain in the community. And what this ordinance does is enable those who already live here to access the equity in their property. And this is the same principle as the ADU ordinance, which is Princeton has one of the highest ALICE, asset limited income constrained indexes, for a community of its demographics in the state. And there are many people here for whom the only thing that they have of value is their property. And if they are competing with owners who live out of state or out of Princeton, that has let me phrase it the reverse way. If basically they are given preference, they have the monopoly, the people who live in Princeton are invested in our town, and we are continuing to allow them to operate an Airbnb, including in an ADU, it gives them the ability to access the equity in their property and to remain in Princeton. And that is, I think, a primary value for everybody on council. So that is why I feel that we are moving in a good direction. I don't know what the solution is to provide the ability for people to visit in Princeton, but I hope we can all be thinking about creating opportunities for that. And unfortunately, the Airbnbs are not that opportunity. They're too expensive. And I understand what you've said, and that you're earning your living that way, but there are only very few people who can afford to visit Princeton. So it may be cheaper than a hotel, but the town doesn't, I think, get the tax rent, but I can have it. Yeah. If there is a cheap Airbnb in Princeton, I have yet to see it, but go ahead, Mark.
All right. Yes, Leighton.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know, the research that we've done suggests strongly that most of the traffic, Airbnb, that filters in and throughout Princeton is due directly or indirectly to what? Can anyone take a guess? The university. So maybe it's time for the university to take a look at providing more alternative accommodations for the people who come here to visit on behalf of the university. How about that? Thank you.
I second that motion.
Okay, anyway, we don't,
That's
Let me-
not the responsibility of the residents here in Princeton to support the university's traffic for visitors to the Princeton town. That's the university's responsibility. So I just, want to put that out there. It's something for people to think about. Thank you.
okay. Is there anyone else in the room or on Zoom that hasn't spoken yet that wants to speak to this topic? Just come on back up.
I obviously understand the direction that the vote will be going in. So thank you for acknowledging the sunset clause idea. To clarify, so when we saw the ordinance, the moment it was released online, we kind of let out a sigh of relief that our work, speaking with the council, kind of paid off, that it went from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 years. So we genuinely appreciate that. Given the fact that things can change, things can be tweaked, we are relying on those 3 years. Can we rely on that if put into action today?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why that would change.
Okay, because once again, despite anything, it is our source of income. We have 3 years to figure something else out, but it is something we're relying on. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Thank you. Okay. Seeing nobody else in the room or no one else on Zoom that wishes to speak to this, we'll close the public hearing, and this is a roll call vote.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate that. Next up are two ordinance introductions. First is ordinance 25-21, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton updating certain lane use reservations and amending Chapter 11 of the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. The public hearing will be December 22nd, 2025. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Brian. Is there a second? Thank you, David. Roll call vote?
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Okay, second up, and just to remind people, on ordinance introductions, we don't discuss them because we've scheduled a public hearing, and if you start to talk about it before the public hearing, you've defeated the purpose of the public hearing. The second introduction is ordinance 2522, an ordinance of the mayor and council of Princeton concerning salaries and compensation of certain personnel of the municipality of Princeton. Public hearing, December 22nd, 2025. Sir, thank you. Leticia's got the motion. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. Roll call vote.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sacks?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a list of resolutions. First up is Resolution 25-400, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing a one-year extension to the contract with We Drive You, Inc. for public transit services for an amount not to exceed $384,407.28. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Leighton. Is there a second? Thank you, Brian. Questions or comments from the council members on that? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 25401, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the award of a bid contract to Edward H. Cray, Inc. for 2026-2027 traffic signal maintenance for an amount not to exceed $86,960. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Brian. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. Questions or comments? Mia?
What am I going to ask? Traffic signal on the corner of Terhune and Harrison. Are we finally, is any of this money that we ever allot going to?
We will ask the new vendor to see if they have the ability to get the traffic signal to sense your vehicle there.
Yeah. It's a real problem when, for example, it's 1 in the morning and you have to sit there for 15 minutes, and
It's a long wait.
so that'd be great.
Okay. That was a very specific question. Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? All right, if not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution 25402, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the award of a bid contract to Waters and Bugby, Inc. for emergency/on-call sanitary sewer repairs and related services for an amount not to exceed $500,000. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, David. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. Questions or comments? Leighton.
Yes, Deanna, if you could help me, it seemed like this company bid like $1.2 million, and yet the award was for $500,000. Is that through some stipulation at the state level?
We're putting it as an emergency on-call contract, and so I think we're looking at just specific quantities of work. We were able to reduce it down to this quantity.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Leighton, it's a great question, but not everything in this list will need to be done every time we ask them to do a repair. But this covers them saying, for all of these specific tasks, this is what we're going to charge you.
Gotcha.
And if it at any point during the year exceeds the $500,000, it would have to come back to us.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's quite all right. Okay, I'm sorry, any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Resolution 25403, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing a site license agreement with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for 120 John Street, PRC-050. Leticia has the motion, and Leighton has the second. Questions or comments? Okay, I think people in town will continue to enjoy the improved cell service as we continue this program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 25404, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing site license agreements with Crown Castle Fiber LLC for new wireless installations at 45 Cutler Road, 246 Valley Road, 70 Jefferson Road, and 250 Hawthorne Avenue. I just want to point out the difference between this and the previous one. The previous one was actually the equipment is, it's replacing a street light pole. I mean, a street traffic light.
Traffic
Traffic
signal.
light, not street light.
Yes.
Traffic light, where the rest of these are the common poles that they put up. That's why they're two separate resolutions. Anyway, I'm sorry. Did I ask for a motion on that? Thank you, Brian. Leticia's got the second. Questions or comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 25405, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton authorizing the award of a bid contract to We Drive You, Inc. for the operation and maintenance of the Princeton Transit Service Express Route for an amount not to exceed $309,840.04. Is there a motion on that one? Thank you, Brian. Is there a second? Thank you, Leighton. Questions or comments? Leighton.
Yes, just one comment. As I read through this resolution, it seemed this pertains to the new bus route that will run from the shopping center to the Dinky. And it seemed to kind of refer to the, and it went through the stops, but really sort of referred that the stops would be the major stops. But I just wanted to encourage people within the sound of my voice who travel on either one of the two routes to encourage them to get on and off at these various stops, and then also to let them know that even though the stops are designated, I believe I'm correct, Deanna, that you can say, hey, stop here. So you don't have to wait for the designated stops, no matter who you are in anyone in Princeton, even though you may not live on the corridor of this uniquely different route. You can and should use it and stop wherever your heart desires on and off of it. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Right, on our, the We Drive You Muni service, that is a functionality that we do have along the route. While these are fixed routes, if you are on that route and you want to hail the bus, you just wave your hand and the bus will stop for you.
And I would also hope that we provide some education around that fact and that service, because that is critically important for all of our ridership to know.
Okay. Mia?
How is that safe? If anyone at any time can say, I want to get off, or anyone on the street can hail the bus and it has to stop, how does that work? I've never heard of anything like that other than like a cab, a taxi cab.
These are 25-mile-an-hour roads typically, and the bus is not moving in excess speed, so they have the time to, or the driver has the time to react and respond.
We've been, not, what I'm about to say doesn't mean that it's an excuse to do it, but we've been doing it for an extended period of time, and there's no reported problems that I've heard in the few years where we've had that, so I don't.
Correct.
It appears to be working. I'm just offering that as an observation.
Okay, so, how then, presumably if there are many people who are asking to get off or to get on the express route, then it's no longer an express route.
Right. I think what would have to happen is if that happened to the extent that it interfered with the timeliness of the express route, then we would probably have to change the rules of engagement, so to speak, on the
Correct.
express route.
Right.
Right, so we'll have to monitor that. It's a good point.
Yeah, we're constantly monitoring the ridership and the onboarding and offboarding along the routes. And We Drive You has been very good to alert us to different trends that they're seeing in ridership in our monthly meetings. And so that would be something that, as the mayor said, we would just adjust. Perhaps, there's an offset where there's a stop that has lower ridership, and we could just make some shifts along the route.
No, it sounds fantastic. It's almost like on demand, which we wanted, but it was millions of dollars. So, like, if we could get on demand for the price of We Drive You, that's great. I just wasn't aware of that.
It's on demand on that route.
Yeah, it's not.
Fabulous.
It is
It does
not
not-
on-demand transit, sorry.
Right, it does not vary from those roadways. That's the difference with on-demand.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Leighton, did you have your hand up again?
Yeah, and I just, wanted to say that, the good news is that we really want to create ridership. This is costing $33,000, and if it's only filled early in the mornings and late in the evenings, that's not going to be in our best interest. So I'm not advocating for seniors during rush hour, but in the middle of the day when they get up and they get moving around, I hope that they'll use this system because we need them to. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to comment, this is the one-year pilot that we had talked about at a previous council meeting, and so we will be monitoring the success of the route and looking at if there are opportunities to adjust or cease operations within that one-year pilot.
Thank you. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Resolution 25406, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton ratifying a contract awarded to the Valley Butcher LLC for deer processing services for an amount not to exceed $20,625. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Brian. David's got the second. Questions or comments? Mia?
Is by deer processing services, we're making the deer available for food, I think in the past, for people who are food insecure. Is that correct? Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next up is the consent agenda, paying bills and release of a maintenance guarantee. Leticia's moving the two of them together. Leighton has the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next up, public comments for items not on the agenda. I had two names, but sir, I think you were first. If you come up and just introduce yourself. And again, there's the 3-minute thing. I'm sorry, the projector's not working. I'll do the 2-minute, 1 minute.
Sure. So my name is Irfan Khawaja. I'm a resident of Princeton. So I have a question for the council to which I request an answer. So there is a video now in the public domain which shows Councilwoman Fraga at the New Jersey League of Municipalities Conference in Atlantic City disclosing that the council made a decision to move public comments to the end of the meeting, that is off-agenda comments, to the end of the meeting, presumably to forestall disruptions. So this is verbatim what she said. What we did was, the public comments, we moved it to the end of the agenda. So we got through our meeting, then moved it to the end of the agenda. But my question is, where they're being disruptive, large groups and yelling, what action can we take? So I can send this to you if you want. So here's my question. Was the decision to move public comments off agenda motivated by a desire to discourage public comments off agenda, which seems to be a natural interpretation of Ms. Fraga's comments, because you can indeed deal with large-scale disruptions by making sure that the comments are at the end of a meeting so that there's no one here to give them. Now, I've spent the last 10 months traveling up and down this state, speaking before town councils and county commissions from Clifton to Trenton. It's becoming common practice in New Jersey to put a consolidated public comment session at the beginning of the meeting for both on and off agenda comments. In no jurisdiction is it regarded as acceptable to move comments to the end of a meeting in order to reduce public participation as such. So Kane versus Board of Education of Ocean Township, public bodies cannot use procedures whose purpose or effect is to thwart participation. A procedure that frustrates or discourages comment does not satisfy the Open Public Meeting Act. So this decision not only discourages comment, but seems intended to do so. And I'd like your answer as to whether it is or it's not, and what the rationale was.
Yeah, sure. There's no intent to limit or disrupt public comment. It is entirely within our purview to decide if we want to have public comment at the beginning of the meeting, in the middle of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting. And we decided that it made sense to conduct all the municipal business prior to having the public comment. And I think, as you saw tonight, we were pretty generous with the back and forth with people during the public hearing on the ordinance. So I think we have a pretty good track record of allowing public comment, and we're well within the Open Public Meetings Act as far as the guidelines to allow public comment. And so anyway, I'm not concerned. I think I know legally we're fine, and I think we have a really good track record of actually probably at times providing more time. I mean, we try to do the 3-minute limit, but plenty of times people go over. And we've had probably, 60, 70 people at a number of meetings where they all got a chance to speak. During COVID, we had 300-some people that wanted to speak, and we scheduled a second meeting, so we didn't go past, I think, like 11:30 at night, and invited everybody to come back. And at the second meeting, we made sure that everybody that did not have a chance to comment at the first meeting commented before anybody else did. So I hear your concern, and I don't know the context of what was said before Leticia made her comments, but not having been there, it's easy for people to, let's just say, take things out of context and put them out in a way that maybe wasn't the intention. So that is not what we're about. So I want to reassure you on that. That is
So I just
definitely-
wanted an answer on the record. And I would just say that it is a natural interpretation of her comments. So I can send you the video. It may not be the correct one, but it is certainly a plausible one. So you can, but you've answered my question, so that's.
If I may, I would
satisfying.
like to provide some context, because I was at, for the entire session. I'm sorry I didn't see you there, but I would like to provide some context. I don't know if you were there for the entire session.
I wasn't there at
But
all.
before I made my comment, if you were there, you may have heard one of the panelists. The issue that was being addressed, what some of the other members that were there were asking about meetings that go on so long that it takes a while for the governing body to get to the agenda. And one of the panelists was suggesting that one way to address it was to limit all public comment to 30 minutes tops. That was one. If you recall, if you were there, another panelist suggested that if the governing body already knew which individuals would come to meetings on a regular basis and speak, and that they made the suggestion that instead of how we do it here, we allow everyone who wants to speak, to only call on individuals that they knew were not going to prolong the meeting, to select only who they were going to allow to speak. What we do, just to put it into context, what we decided to do in order for us to be able to conduct business, which we do, and also allow everyone who wants to speak the opportunity to speak, whether it's 200, 300, we moved it to the end of the agenda so that everyone who wants to speak has the opportunity to do so, but it's not to prevent anyone from speaking.
Yeah, and I would just add one thing. I know some governing bodies put the public comment at the very beginning of the meeting, and if you literally show up 5 minutes late, you've missed it. So personally, I do not like having the public comment as the first thing on the agenda, because I think that's a sneaky way to avoid public comment. But that's my personal opinion. But I think where we have it I think it's a good balance. But anyway.
I regard my questions answered. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. Chip, I think you were also on or did you want to speak? You already spoke on the other thing? Yeah. No, I know, but this sign up is for items not on the agenda. Oh. But you're good.
Can't read.
No penalty. You're fine. Okay. Anybody else in the room for public comment? Anybody on Zoom for public comment on anything not on the agenda? Okay, then we'll close the public comment section, and
I move to adjourn.
thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're done for the night. Thank you very much.